Obviously, you'd normally have more, I think, at this time of year, but the ground is...
It is the ground. To be fair, we just have a few horses that aren't just quite right at the moment. It happens this time of year. The weather is sort of, well, it's all very muggy and mild like this. It doesn't help us. We could do with a couple of frosts would actually clear things up a little bit for us. So we're just having to pick and choose a little bit, but it is very, very wet everywhere, and we're having to be a bit careful where they go. So we're strung around the country. They've got one at Bangor, one at Doncaster, and two here. Doncaster's where the good ground will be. Bangor where it will be virtually unraceable. I'm sure you've seen where those floods were coming in. I mean, I'm amazed they're racing, but Vita du Roc, he handles soft ground, so he's gone there at 12:20 for his first run of offences. We'll do the away games first. He's there at 12:20. There's a horse of JP's called the St James, is it? Yeah. He was quite a good hurdler, but I thought we ought to beat it probably. But they've all got to jump round out of that ground at Bangor. It will be very hard work. And then we have Volney de Tay, who is going to Doncaster because he wants better ground. Again, funny race. There are only 4 runners in each race, and that's the nature of novice chases at the moment because nobody wants to take anybody on. Volney's the horse that's frightened everybody away at Donny, but same thing sort of happening here. Like tomorrow I'd have run them here, but you're going to have more of that runs here tomorrow, so nobody wants to take that on. So everybody's dodging, you're having to dodge one the whole way. It's really only from a point of handicapping, because if you go and beat more of that, you're dead for life. And it's the same, that's why nobody really wants to take on Volney de Tay. He's rated 156 over hurdles, so if you're only 140 rated horse coming over fences, you hardly want to take him on at level weights, because otherwise if you beat him, you're going to go to 150 something. So, you know, you've got to be so careful. Same here, to be honest with you. I think that's what will win. Minella. It's a lovely horse. But we go on to, yeah. But Volney, again, those 2 novice chasers, they're both quite smart, I think. So it's pretty important that they're both of them making their debuts over fences. So it's quite an important day in their lives.
Absolutely. Let's look at here. 255, Bears of Fair carrying top weight. Freddie Mitchell takes off 5. There has been money for One Track Mine for Warren Greattricks. 11-4 favourite from 7-2. How do you think your one will get on?
Well, poor old Bear, I mean, he sits at the top of all these handicaps.
He always seems to be top weight.
I can't even get him down a pound because he finished 3rd, 4th, 5th, run really well. You can't come down. I mean, if I had any brains, he'd finish 10th, 10th and 10th. And then, the objective, believe it or not, is the Grand National. And so we're just really working away and marking time. This will actually be his last run for the time being. He'll go home now and take the rest of the winter off because he doesn't go in soft ground. So you can see what's going to happen today. As I say, if I had any sense, he'd finish 10th. And I bet you'll finish 5th or 6th. He won't win, he says bravely. I wish he did. I mean, I hope he does. But in soft ground with that weight, it's impossible. Freddie Mitchell rides him every time anyway, and that makes sense because he's got top weight as usual. Freddie, very capable claimer, and takes £5 off and knows him backwards. But he's actually a chaser, so he'll come back in the spring and probably just have 1 run, we think, before the Grand National. It's a sort of weird idea, but he's a great jumper. But he's even worse handicapped over fences than he is over hurdles. So we're just spending, I mean, he can win a good hurdle race like this. He'll be competitive, but I just, as you rightly say, there's unexposed horses like Warren's coming into the race that are on the up, whereas he's got there, and you know there are rising youngsters behind. He's not that old, but he's very exposed.
One who certainly isn't is your runner in the last, Barden. 100-30 shot. Drumley Sunset's the favourite, who unseated Richard Johnson at the start of the Supreme Trial that was won by Altior.
Yeah.
But Barden's very exciting, isn't he?
Interesting, Drumley, whatever it is, he won a bumper at Exeter in the, well, it was February time, I suspect, January, February time last year. He beat a horse of ours called 007, who then has just actually won his first 2 novice hurdles, and he won at Sandown last Saturday with a penalty. and that beat 007, but we were giving that a penalty then. He beat us a couple of lengths. That, to me, somehow doesn't, that form alone probably wouldn't be as good as it is, but then I know they were expecting him to win here, then there was a bit of, I don't know what happened at the start. He went and it just was coming in to jump off, and he ducked and Nicky fell off, and it looked horrible. It was very kind of him because we won the race, but it was, I don't know what happened. I don't think, it's got no kinks. I don't think that's the horse's fault. He won't do that again. It's an I think the interesting horse is Paul Nicholls' horse by Polyglot. That's very, he has got to give us quite a hefty penalty, but I don't think he was a very, very expensive horse that I think they think a lot of, and I'm not sure he wouldn't be the one in there I'd be the most frightened of. We call him Baden because we weren't quite sure we liked Baden, and perfectly reasonable to call him Baden if you want to. We call him Baden anyway. The commentator's sure to call him Baden, but that makes no difference. He's very, very nice. I love him, and I think he's going to be really nice. He belongs to the same owners as 007. I think he will be a very smart horse. He's lovely. He's a big grey horse. He's been quite lazy, and he's suddenly just woken up in the last fortnight, and it's time for him to get out there and have a go. But I'd like to think he'll run very well. I think he will. He might just need it, and he might just need a bit further. So I'm being a bit sort of sitting on the fence there. I'd like to tell you he'd win. He's capable of it, but he might just not know enough. And he might walk further, and he might not be fit enough. So I'm giving you all the negatives I think of, but I do like him a lot.
So maybe one to watch for the future. And they're off in the first. So I think I'll just ask you really quickly, Jossis Hill, all okay?
Jossis Hill is fine, thank goodness. I don't know if any of you saw it. It was about as bad a fall as you will ever see. It was horrible. And the one thing I was trying to do was get some confidence into him. And I think we were just talking now, I said he walked into it. He just absolutely galloped clean into it. He's come out with one big knee. And we thought Nico had broken everything in his shoulder and collarbone, but he hadn't. He's riding again. He's gone to ride Volnay de Tay at Doncaster today. But he's all right, thank God. He is a good horse, but where we go from here, I'm not sure at the moment.
His handicap mark is just...
He's very badly handicapped. You can't run him in a handicap. So he's got to step up. He's got to run in those sort of races. I can't go to Cheltenham with him because that's where we're intending the Desert Orchid. I'm hoping that Sprinter Sacra will go there. Ooh, Barry. Ooh. Ah, there's my tip for the race. Sorry about that, boys. Naturally, he didn't have a chance to get onto it. I know Barry quite well, and I know JP well. They won't put this horse back in the race today, whatever happens. He won't, you'll school him from here.
Nicky, can I ask a question about the horse that came second to 007?
Yeah,
I read that he was going to
but he's only a baby, and the whole race is a bit of a disaster, even from our point of view. We finished first and second. The third horse was rated 135, and I could see what was going to happen. I rang the handicapper on Monday morning, and I tried to persuade him that you cannot rate 007 to the third horse, which is already 135, because I said, you're going to go and give him 145. He said, I am. I said, well, you can't. And I can also tell you that Premier Bond, he was, to be fair, 007 was meant to win, Premier Bond was meant to have a nice time, and we finished first and second, which is never that clever, but they're going to finish up with very overhyped ratings for the Premier Bond, who hasn't won yet, so he doesn't need one, but for 007 it's going to be very difficult. The irony of the whole thing was that I could run two horses, Premier Bond and 007, i.e. the two Bonds, in the same race.
Yeah.
Stupid, but you won.
I was there and everyone was back.
The commentator was being very funny about shakens and lobsters. God knows what. Anyway, the other horse you mentioned there, I think is well worth watching. There is a hair's breadth of Ben Pauling's. Actually, unfortunately, Nico won on it here the last meeting. We did know something about it because it's trained by one of our ex-assistants, Ben Pauling. and he brought it over to Seven Barrows to work with us a couple of times because I think he knew it was quite good, and he needed some sharper horses to work it with, and he came down to us, which actually was a very good thing to do from the horse's point of view. It wasn't such a good idea because we all saw it work. And it does go very, very well. It was thrown in the last time. I know Barry rides it today. If he manages to get round on this thing, he's already given up. Yes.
So was it your money, Nicky, that reduced
it? wasn't mine. Do you know? And I meant to. And I was running around all morning. I kept saying, I must do something about that. I mentioned it to nobody and forgot to back it myself. But I'm not the world's. If I back something, I mean, I have £1 each way twice a year. So that's it. If I start having £1 on a horse with Stan James, you'll know what's happening.
There you go. So there's the tip for the day: a hairbreadth in the 110. Thank you very much, Nicky.
As always, the other thing is to keep an eye out forever if you're watching these cross-country races. There's only one man, that's Ender Bolger.
Yeah.
And just if you keep watching Ender Bolger in the cross-country races, you won't go far wrong.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nicky.
Good.
Thanks, Nicky.
Enjoy your lunch.